This is Inside Texas Politics with Jason Whiteley.
Good morning and welcome to Inside Texas Politics. I'm Jason Whiteley. Issues are taking shape. Debates have yet to happen, and the first few days of the session is setting the tone for what's to come. This morning, both sides in studio, Democratic State Representative Nicole Collier from Fort Worth and Republican State Rep Jason Villalba from Dallas, both here in studio. And joining the questioning, as always, Bud Kennedy of the Star-Telegram. Great to have all of you here.
Thank you.
Good morning, Jason. Good morning, Bud.
Let's start with the A through F grading system in the state. It was supposed to be an easy way for parents to understand how well their child's school is doing. Superintendents are ticked off, saying it's unfair. Should this be reconsidered? Jason, we'll start with you.
Well, I think we're already in the process of reconsidering it. Commissioner Morath has talked about some tweaks that we're going to see to it. Look, when we institute a program in Austin, often what happens over the course of the next 2 years, we find that there are some hiccups. We're fixing those hiccups. We understand administrators and folks from around the state are upset. But I'll tell you, the calls I'm getting from my parents, and as a parent of public school kids myself, I like it. It's clear. It's concise. I understand it. I'm a simple fellow that understands A through F, the blue chip and the blue ribbon and this and that. I just don't always get. But A through F makes a lot of sense for me. I think we're going to make this work, give it a little time, and maybe if it's still causing problems 2 sessions later, let's readdress it.
Nicole, should it go away?
I believe so. I haven't been a supporter of that A through F grading scale. It grades schools on a bell curve, and it actually affects the morale of the schools and the students. I'm getting calls from superintendents. I'm getting calls from the trustees, school board members. They don't like it, and it doesn't represent what actually happens in the schools because it's based on test scores from long ago, and it's not really representative.
I want to ask you about House leadership as well, too. Speaker Straus was reelected to the top job unanimously last week, too. How do you expect the House to work with the Senate? Nicole, considering this?
Well, we're going to work and we're going to follow our leadership. I'm so proud of Speaker Straus. He has set forth some really great goals about public school funding. He set goals about overhauling CPS and addressing mental health care. These are real issues that affect everyday Texans. And so that's the way that our leadership has taken. That's the path they're taking, and that's what we're going to stick with.
What message does it send, Jason?
Well, the importance of that message, 150 to 0. No one objected. Not Republican, not Democrat, not Tea Party, not Liberty Caucus. What this means is that these people have given a vote of confidence for the conservative leadership of Joe Straus. This is so important to make note of this because you're hearing that this is a meaningless vote because there is no alternative. When we vote for the budget, there's no alternative budget, and yet if you vote for it, that means you're for it. When you press that green light, you are in favor of that person. Make no mistake, this was not about not splintering the caucus or a meaningless vote. This was a vote of confidence for a very strong leader in Joe Straus.
We have a lot of viewers who are not tuned into what you're doing right now. They're worried about the Cowboys. They're worried about Washington. Just for one thing, name one thing that people should really be worried about. That the viewers right now should be paying attention to what goes on in the Texas House.
Well, of course, you want to make sure that we pay attention to the property tax. There's been talk about overhauling the property tax system, how we come up with the property tax values and so forth, how the values affect the income for the state. So that's going to be something that is going to affect everyday people. And then also CPS. We need to make sure that we take a look at overhauling CPS, making sure that we have the right workers and that they're paid a fair living wage.
Jason. The newspapers will tell you that CPS is the #1 issue in the state. We have children all across the state who've been affected by this. In fact, many of them have actually been murdered. We have got to do a better job. This system is broken. We need to fund it. We need to fundamentally reform it. I will work tirelessly with my representative friend Nicole to make sure that it works, and I think we're going to work together to make that happen. 2, our budget is going to be short this year. We don't have the requisite resources that we need to fill all of our needs around Texas. There are going to be cuts this session, and we're going to have to determine where those cuts come from. I'm hopeful it's not education and health care like we've been signaled, but we're going to have to find some areas where there's some waste and efficiency, and we'll have to work on that.
Jason, let me ask you about the pension, the Dallas Police and Fire pension, too. Is the state refereeing any of this, trying to get these two sides together to solve this problem, or is the state just sitting back and waiting for a solution to come up?
I wouldn't say we're sitting back, but we are hopeful that the parties and the stakeholders in Dallas really come together to find a solution. I think the mayor has heard the call of people like me who've said, let's get to the negotiating table and get to it. I know that the police and the fire are also very interested in finding some solutions to this. I've heard recently recently, and as recently as yesterday, that there are people coming together now. They're making some progress. We're not there yet, but we're bridging that gap. Make no mistake, if it ends up in the chambers of the House and the Senate, it will be a firestorm. So we've got to find solutions before we get to that point.
Will it be solved by the end of session?
I believe so. I believe we'll get there. I believe reasonable minds will come together and make this work for Dallas.
And Nicole, let me ask you about the police incident in Fort Worth. You were one of the lawmakers who supported Chief Fitzgerald and called for a wait-and-see attitude. Now there's a 10-day suspension for the officer. Some members of the community are not happy about that. How do you feel about the outcome?
Well, I think that, once we look at all the facts, then we can determine whether there was a just and right punishment. But I'm not comfortable with that punishment. I believe that there should have been more action taken, just for the simple fact that the policies of the Fort Worth Police Department were not followed. And if this person has been on the police force for such a long time, they should be, able to follow the policy. So I'm not comfortable with it. I look forward to seeing what the community can do to rectify the situation, and perhaps we can even have a Department of Justice investigation into this.
Are you asking for that?
I have not personally asked for that, but I think that might be the right track that we need to take for this particular issue.
Have you spoken to the chief or the mayor about trying to find some other solution?
No, I have not.
Jason, law enforcement's close to your heart, too. How do you feel about the situation?
This is a horrible situation. I saw the video. Clearly, the officer acted out of the context of what you would normally expect. These people were, I believe, offended, and they should be, by what had happened. So we're going to see what happens. I stand with the law enforcement officers, and when they make a decision like this, I have to understand that they know more about these facts than I do, so I stand with the decision that was made. But I'm also sensitive to Representative Collier's concerns that maybe it's not enough for what happened that day.
Nicole, final moments here, too. You have a piece of legislation I want to ask you about called the Zombie Debt Bill. Briefly, what is this? Why is it needed? Well,
it's very needed because it prohibits the collection of old debt. So there's debt that you have a 4-year statute of limitation to collect debt in Texas. And if after that time you cannot file any type of lawsuit to try to collect it. But what we've been seeing is that there have been people who have been contacted by third-party bill collectors trying to collect old debt.
Past 4 years.
Past 4 years. And so they'll ask you to make a small payment. They'll say, make a $10 payment on this debt. And then it restarts the statute of limitations, and somebody's unknowingly done that. And so they should not be subject to that type of policy.
Gotcha. Nicole Collier and Jason Villalba, thanks for coming in, and look forward to seeing you later in the session.
Thank you both.
Great to see you.